"Get that witch away from my daughter!" The woman's scream cut through the hospital lobby. People turned, staring at the barefoot girl clutching a small bag of herbs. Security rushed in, dragging her across the floor as whispers spread like wildfire. A homeless girl, dirty, unwanted, accused of witchcraft. No one saw the quiet desperation in her eyes. No one knew that in just 3 days. That same witch would save the billionaire's only child. Tell us in comments, would you have judged her too? Before we begin, hit subscribe. It's appreciated. Her name was Alina. For months, she had slept beneath the cracked roof of an abandoned bus station, clutching a worn blanket that smelled faintly of smoke and rain. Each morning, she'd walk to the marketplace, hoping to trade her handmade herbs for a piece of bread. Most people ignored her, some out of disgust, others out of fear. They called her strange, whispered that she spoke to plants, that she was cursed. But Alina never fought back. She just smiled softly, as if she knew something the world didn't. Across town, in a mansion with glass walls and golden floors, a billionaire named Mr. Grayson fought a very different kind of battle. His daughter, Lily, once bright and full of laughter, had fallen gravely ill. Every doctor had failed. Every treatment had only worsened her condition. Reporters waited outside the hospital, chasing headlines of tragedy. Inside, Mr. Grayson spent sleepless nights staring at monitors, begging for a miracle. One evening, as the city dimmed into silence, Alina sat outside the hospital gate, holding a small jar of crushed leaves and wildflower oil. She didn't know why she was there, only that her dreams had shown her a child who needed help. She whispered a prayer to the cold air, hoping someone would listen. And then, by chance or fate, the billionaire's driver saw her. "Move along," he said gruffly. But when she looked up, her eyes held something, calm, fearless, almost knowing. The driver hesitated. He would remember that look for the rest of his life. If you were that driver, seeing a homeless girl standing outside your boss's hospital at midnight, would you have sent her away too? The next morning, Alina returned to the hospital gates, clutching her small jar like it was her last hope. She had been chased away once already, but something inside her refused to give up. The moment she stepped inside the lobby, the air shifted. Whispers started again. "That's her. The witch girl." A nurse frowned, motioning to security. Mr. Grayson was in his office upstairs, exhausted, surrounded by empty coffee cups and hopeless reports. His daughter's condition had worsened overnight, her fever soaring, her pulse weakening. Every expert he'd flown in had failed. He was a man who had everything: money, influence, power. Yet not the one thing he needed most: hope. Downstairs, Alina was being dragged out once again when Lily's doctor, Dr. Harper, happened to pass by. For a brief moment, their eyes met. Harper saw not madness, but something else in that girl's face: quiet certainty. "Wait," he said to the guards. "Let her speak." The crowd fell silent, confused. Alina spoke softly. "Her illness isn't just of the body," she whispered. "Something is blocking her spirit. Let me help her just once. If I'm wrong, you'll never see me again." Dr. Harper hesitated, torn between logic and the strange pull of her words. Mr. Grayson was a man of science, not superstition, yet Harper knew they were out of time. He climbed the stairs to his office and told him about the girl. The billionaire laughed bitterly. "A homeless herbalist? That's your plan now?" But when Lily's monitor began to beep wildly, panic broke through his pride. Minutes later, Alina stood by the child's bedside. The room was filled with the steady hum of machines. Her thin fingers trembled as she reached for the jar. "Please," she said softly, "just let me try." Grayson nodded once, defeated. She placed her herbs near Lily's chest, closed her eyes and began to hum, a low, haunting melody that seemed to vibrate through the room. Doctors exchanged nervous glances. The heart monitor flickered, then steadied. A faint color returned to Lily's cheeks. For the first time in weeks, her breathing eased. But outside the room, whispers were turning into shouts. Reporters had caught wind of a witch doctor treating the billionaire's daughter. Nurses argued. One shouted, "She's putting that child in danger!" Security was called again. The crowd gathered outside, chanting for her removal, and just as everything began to calm, Lily suddenly gasped. Her eyes flew open. Everyone froze. The billionaire stared in disbelief. But no one noticed Alina's hand trembling, her face pale as snow. Something inside her had changed. The miracle had a price. Would you have believed it? Or called her a witch too? The room exploded into chaos. Doctors pushed past one another, monitors blaring, reporters shouting from the hallway. Mr. Grayson stood frozen at the foot of his daughter's bed, staring at the impossible. Lily was awake, breathing, smiling faintly through tears. Her fever was gone. The girl they said wouldn't survive the week was whispering her father's name, but then all eyes turned to Alina. She swayed on her feet, her hands trembling. The color drained from her face as she tried to steady herself. Dr. Harper caught her just before she collapsed. For every ounce of life she seemed to give Lily, a little was taken from her. The security team stormed in, demanding to remove her. One of them grabbed her arm roughly. "You're lucky we don't call the police," he hissed. But Mr. Grayson's voice cut through the noise. "Stop." His tone was sharp, unfamiliar even to himself. The entire room fell silent. He looked at the frail girl lying half-conscious in the doctor's arms. The same girl who had been sleeping on the streets, the same girl he had ordered to be thrown out just hours before. "She stays," he said quietly. "She saved my daughter." But outside that hospital door, the crowd had already made up its mind. Phones were raised. Words like witch, fraud, and scam filled the air. Within minutes, Alina's face was plastered across social media. "Homeless witch tricks billionaire," the headlines screamed. That night, while Lily finally slept peacefully, Alina lay in a hospital cot, shivering. Dr. Harper watched her vitals drop, helpless. "She's burning out," he whispered. "Her body's too weak." When Mr. Grayson came to see her, she barely opened her eyes. "You don't owe me anything," she murmured. "Just believe. Not every miracle looks the way you expect it to." Her hand went still. The machines flatlined. Would she make it through the night? Or had she given her last breath to save the child of the man who once threw her away? Tell us what you think will happen next. Her story isn't over yet. For hours, no one spoke. The hospital lights dimmed, and the monitors by Alina's bed went quiet. Mr. Grayson stood beside her, his chest tight, unable to breathe under the weight of guilt. This girl had saved his daughter's life, and in return, the world had called her a witch, a fraud, a liar. But just before dawn, something strange happened. Lily, who had been asleep in the next room, woke up suddenly. "Daddy," she whispered, the girl with the kind eyes. "She said she's leaving now." Mr. Grayson's heart froze. He rushed into Alina's room, but the bed was empty. No body, no heartbeat, nothing. Only the faint scent of wildflowers lingered in the air. Dr. Harper couldn't explain it. There was no record of her discharge, no sign she had walked out. The cameras at the hospital's exits showed nothing. It was as if Alina had vanished into thin air. But on the table beside Lily's bed lay something small. The same jar of herbs Alina had carried everywhere, with a note tied to it. "What heals one soul must come from another." Weeks passed. Lily grew stronger, her laughter returning, her color brightening. But Mr. Grayson changed the most. The man who once measured life by profit and power now spent his days walking through the city, quietly leaving food and blankets for the homeless. He set up a foundation in Alina's name, the Wildflower Project, to help children and women living on the streets. And yet, every year on the anniversary of Lily's recovery, a single bunch of wildflowers appears outside the hospital gate, fresh, dew-soaked, and bound by a strip of cloth from an old blanket. Some say Alina survived. Others believe she was never just a girl. Maybe she was sent to remind them of something far greater than science, wealth, or fear, because sometimes the people we push away carry the very miracle we've been praying for. How many Alinas have we ignored? Just because they didn't look like a miracle? Show some love with a like and subscribe to stay inspired.